Every year, Premiere Magazine has the 100 most powerful people in Hollywood, and I keep claiming that they leave off the #1 man, which is a guy named Joe Farrell, who runs all the test screenings of movies.
Testing a movie in front of an audience before it's finished is a practice that has existed for nearly a century. And yet, it remains as controversial as ever. In an era where studios are becoming more and more formulaic and risk-averse, is the test screening yet another way to strip creative control from a filmmaker? Or is it a useful tool?
What the f*** was that?
That's it.
That's our movie.
There will be spoilers for the following movies. The first test screenings are credited to comedian Harold Lloyd, who used them starting in 1928 to make sure the jokes in his films were working. The strategy proliferated quickly and has played a part in massive changes to countless iconic films. Sunset Boulevard was supposed to open with the dead protagonist walking around a morgue. But after a negative audience reaction, Billy Wilder cut the entire first reel of the film.
The poor dope. He always wanted a pool.
The initial ending of The Shawshank Redemption never revealed that Red reunites with Andy.
I hope I can make it across the border.
But a test audience's overwhelmingly positive reaction to the happier ending convinced director Frank Darabont to keep it. Anchorman was almost an entirely different movie, following a group of criminals who wanted to use a news station to espouse their beliefs. Negative test screenings resulted in expensive rewrites and reshoots.
Spider-Man's balls, that hurt!
Today, the test screening process has become largely standardized. An audience is assembled, typically far from Hollywood, so that the screening isn't filled with industry members. The movie that is shown can often be far from finished. The audience typically watches a relatively low-quality proxy file, which can include temp, visual effects, sound design, and music. After the screening, the audience is asked to fill out a questionnaire, where they can write out their feelings about the film. Two of the most important questions that are usually included are, how would you rate this movie? And how likely are you to recommend this movie? Executives use the answers to these questions to tell them whether or not the film is close to being finished, or if it needs significant work.
It stinks!
After the audience fills out the questionnaires, a representative for the film will often moderate a conversation about the movie, collecting more opinions from the viewers and seeing if they are widely held.
No logical person would consider a show like this unless they had some sort of a mental or moral defect.
Typically, test screenings result in cutting or recutting certain scenes. But in extreme cases, they may require reshoots, which can be logistically difficult and costly. The information gathered at a test screening is also used by the marketing department, who can see what demographic is most positively responding to the film. They can then target their advertising to this demographic. And so it is clear that test screenings can generate a lot of information for a studio. But is it at all that helpful for filmmakers? Famed editor Walter Murch describes his approach to test screening as such. You can learn a tremendous amount from them, but you have to be cautious about direct interpretations of what people have to say to you, particularly on those cards they fill out after the screening. I'm extremely suspicious of those. The most helpful thing of all is simply learning how you feel when the film is being shown to 600 people who have never seen it before. Now, all of a sudden, you are seeing things you seem to have never seen before. The feeling is shared by many filmmakers.
The value of any kind of a preview screening is to see your movie and see the backs of 400 people's heads. So you can see where they're getting bored. You can see where they're confused. You can see when they get restless. You can feel all that stuff. You don't have to put an E-meter on everybody in the audience.
Reading a preview audience's reactions is often the most clear cut for comedies. If people are laughing, it's working. If they're not, it's not.
What I like to say is you become a whore for laughs. You really do. Once you go to a test screening and people are really laughing, then you're like, why are they laughing there? F it, let's take it out, let's trim it, let's find it. Comedy is so much about precision that most people don't know that. They think, oh, I make a comedy, how hard is that? It's very hard to get people to laugh. So it's very much about precision, and so you're constantly going back and honing in on things.
Hello. Yeah? I'm here for the gangbang.
Horror filmmakers will use test screenings to a similar end, seeing if scares are actually scary. Oddity editor Brian Davis explains,
it's really difficult to know sometimes, like, if we got it right or not. So another thing we did was have a test screening. So we had a test screening in Dublin. So when we showed it to an audience in Dublin, you could kind of feel the vibe in the room that everybody was very uncomfortable and scared. So that's what we really knew it was working at that point.
Would you just open the door? I'm trying to help you.
Often, test screenings are used to resolve questions filmmakers or executives already have about a film. Ridley Scott explains, the value of a screening is you think that really works, and then you go to a screening and a third of the audience say something that you knew was in the back of your mind. And as soon as they say it, you go, now I got to deal with that. So all you are doing is getting an endorsement of a problem. So you've got to deal with it. Conversely, a test screening may be used to find problems that filmmakers are blind to themselves. Dan Myrick and Ed Sanchez noted that, at one stage in the Blair Witch Project editing process, we had a 2.5-hour cut. We had no idea what we had, so we had to show it to an audience and get their reaction.
I see why you like this video camera so much.
You do?
It's not quite reality.
But just because some filmmakers see potential usefulness in preview screenings, it doesn't mean to say they enjoy it. A bad test screening may feel excruciating, but it's not the end of the world. As New Line executive Richard Brenner puts it, in the beginning of my career, if something didn't test well early, I would panic. And now I cannot be fazed by low scores. Some of our biggest successful movies at one point weren't testing well. I feel for the filmmakers we work with. A lot of first-timers who probably feel like it's life or death, but it's a really fun process.
Spoken!
But of course, the test screening isn't only a benevolent power of good. There's a reason so many in Hollywood are skeptical of the process. Some filmmakers reject test screenings on principle, viewing it as a form of creative dilution.
I really don't believe in test screenings. It's like we make our films for us, and if you don't like it, so I'm sorry. It's like we're not going to be making films with the lowest common denominator. There's no reason to take other people's notes and water down the vision.
Why don't we drive here? Walk! Chop chop! Move!
Hayao Miyazaki puts it more bluntly. It is impossible for all viewers to understand a film. We are the ones who take responsibility, so we can't leave it to someone who happens to be there. Others see test screenings as a tool that primarily benefits executives. As Roger Ebert once argued, too often, studio executives use preview screenings as a weapon to enforce their views on directors. And countless movies have had stupid happy endings tacked on after such screenings. Even the most celebrated filmmakers have gone through this experience.
What do you think of that?
Martin Scorsese details his process for Goodfellas, which angered the test audience so much that part of the audience walked out and others left rather pointed messages on the survey cards. It became very difficult. It was a constant battle until a few weeks before release. Goodfellas terrified Warner Brothers executives at the time.
He says, no, you're going to tell me something today, tough guy. I said, all right, I'll tell you something. Go f*** your mother.
As Ebert noted, one of the most dreaded changes to come out of test screenings is the happy ending. Pete's doctor describes the all-too-common experience. We screened Monsters, Inc. for an audience, and one of the questions that they asked was, how do you feel about the ending? And a third of the people raised their hand and said they liked it. To other people, they said, why didn't you like it? And they said, we want to see Sully get back together with Boo at the very end. I just knew in my head that if I did a scene where he runs in and he sees Boo, that it would never be as cool as it is in your own head. So I had to fight for that for quite a bit. Boo?
Kitty.
This is a core complaint many filmmakers have about test screenings. Many times an audience thinks they want one thing when they actually want something else, leading to misleading notes. Walter Murch gives an example of the phenomenon. When you ask the direct question, what was your least favorite scene, and 80% of the people are in agreement about one scene they do not like, the impulse is to fix the scene or cut it out. But the chances are that that scene is fine. Instead, the problem may be that the audience simply didn't understand something that they needed to know for the scene to work. This is why many filmmakers will seek to reject the specific notes given by audiences, and why questionnaires can be so hated.
It's not over your film.
Where it's incredibly horrible is that they think it's a science and then give out questionnaires and then want to sort of change things because 53% of the people didn't like the opening song. On the other hand, 47% of the people loved it, and you're making these judgments based on 3 percentage points. So I think it's one of the scariest things that's going on in Hollywood.
Well, why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
The person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it.
Kevin Smith adds, it's when the screening ends, the lights come up, and the folks in charge start handing out survey cards for the audience to fill out. That's when things usually go south for me. And even worse, 20 or 25 people are kept behind to take part in what's known as a focus group, where they're asked pointed questions about the movie. Of all the aspects of filmmaking that go into the gestalt of cinematic storytelling, this is definitely the least appetizing. I don't know any filmmaker who enjoys it.
Remind me to renew that restraining order. Why? Because I am going to blast that flick on the internet tonight.
These focus groups can result in a misleading herd mentality, where people start agreeing on perceived problems that they wouldn't have noticed had someone not mentioned it.
You try it.
This can go in the other direction as well, where an audience can react very positively to a film that may in fact be flawed.
I'm gonna save the f***ing day.
Matthew Vaughn explains that he learned this the hard way with his film Argylle. We had done test screenings that had gone fantastically well. The premiere was a really fun night, and it was like going back to the Snatch days, where there was such excitement, and I started drinking the Kool-Aid. In the end, a test screening can only do so much for a film. You can try to change some elements based on an audience's reaction, but you'll also have to stand by creative decisions you made which are irreversible.
A movie is a movie. It's like at the time you do the rough cut, you're going to refine it, you're going to make it better. But that's pretty much what it is. You're not going to take Leprechaun and turn it into Chicago with a couple more weeks of editing. And no matter how much, the audience goes, it would really be great if they sang and danced.
He had it coming, hot six. He had it coming, Cicero bitch. He took a flower,
If there's one thing most filmmakers and executives alike can agree on, it's that test screenings are extremely powerful. But whether that power is used to make a movie better or worse is up for debate. How do you view test screenings? Let us know in the comments. Before you get to your own test screening stage, you'll need a movie to screen. Get started with StudioBinder's pre-production software, which can help with everything from scheduling to storyboarding. Until next time, stand out from the crowd.
Well, what'd you think?
As Steven Spielberg, I approve of this movie, and let me say this is the greatest film of all time.
Yeah. Let's celebrate!